And everything's set too.
Yep. Yep. So we should be going.
And once I see that's live, I'll post about it real quick.
All right, it is live.
Shit.
Dope,
We haven't
man.
been live in a minute.
We have not been live in a little while, so cool to be here. All right, and no one in the chat so far, but go ahead and post onto the Discord and let's get that going.
We will do. Let's see. It's not showing up for me. What the heck?
I got it. Here,
You got it?
I just shared it with you. I'll put it in the Discord. I'll put it in the Discord.
No,
Okay. Okay. Oh, it's funny. It says I'm playing Dolphin on Discord.
yeah, I saw that. All right, I won't really be able to monitor chat that well because it was just.
I'm good.
setup
No, I
now.
got it. Yeah, I got it.
Cool.
Don't trip. Dope. All right. We can go ahead and get started. We'll clap in. All right.
Cool.
3.
Yeah, setup is so janky right now with my. It's my
No,
dad's
you're chill.
office.
Yeah. No worries. No worries. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right.
Dope.
All right, dog. Go ahead.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hey everyone, it's Matt,
And this is Lucas,
and this is Thanks for Playing.
the podcast where we break down the most iconic video games the world has to offer.
I just know.
Okay, I know that's the reason it's funny. It's always funny, but the reason it's really funny right now is because you're yelping in a place you probably shouldn't be yelping.
Yeah. I'm for those unaware, I'm in the middle of a move, and in the interim, I am staying with some family for a couple weeks. So I just know my, I just know my parents are in another room right now, wondering what the hell their son is doing in his dad's office. So, um, that's all good. But Lucas, what's up, man?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. I'm glad to be recording. I feel like I've gotten to a point with recording where, like, just because we've been doing it so consistently for the past year, or over a year now, like when we actually get to like a night where we're recording, I kind of feel like, okay, let's reset. It's like usually on a Monday or early on in the week. It's usually a good start to my week to kind of get the brain flowing. I'm pretty ahead on our game schedule, so I'm excited to kind of jump into the games we've been playing during the next few recording sessions. And yeah, things have been good.
I know you
Work's
knocked
been
out
good.
you knocked out like our three of the next games you're doing, including this one today, in like a week.
Yeah, the next 2 games I already have done. It was a long,
Yeah.
prosperous Labor Day weekend. I'll say that.
I love
How you
that.
doing?
So get this. So I was walking. I took my dog for a short walk today, and I passed one of my neighbors, and just casual talk, like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And here's what they said. I've never heard this before as a response to how you're doing. They said, "Oh, what's up? I'm top shelf."
Oh.
What do we think of that?
So I top shelf. Top
Is that
shelf's a
top
thing.
shelf?
You know that's
I
a
haven't
thing.
heard that. I mean, I know it's like a thing, but I don't know. I was kind of blown away.
I've never
Never heard
heard
that
anyone
before.
say top shelf in response to how's it going, but people say
I know.
top
That's
shelf.
why I was blown away. I was kind of shook.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
did the neighbors say I am top shelf or they just said top shelf?
He just he just looked at me and said top shelf.
That's
It was
wild.
crazy, bro. I literally said nothing back afterwards because I was so shook. I
Andrew
just
Andrew
stared
in
at him
the
and just kept walking.
Andrew in the chat said I'd switch neighborhoods.
So
Yeah,
maybe
honestly, Andrew might be onto something. It's either like a really good thing or a really bad thing because it's like, well, that guy's like 10 years ahead on slang right there, or he's just weird.
it's gonna catch on Twitter in like Like 2 years probably.
I mean, people have been saying top shelf, so it's not too far off. But to say it after how's it going is a little bit strange. But
Yeah, little
okay,
little shook, but I'll tell you I'll tell you what's not top shelf, Lucas. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. That is right, everyone. Today we are talking about the number one family simulator.
just families.
Just family simulator. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. Cue whatever soundtrack music that game has. It
That's
wasn't
right.
even memorable.
That's right. The 2013 indie sensation by Starbreeze Studios, led by the controversial Joseph Fares.
Yes.
8.2 on IGN, 5 out of 5 stars on Joystick, 90 out of 100 on PC for Metacritic on PC, and referred to as the best downloadable game at the time since Journey by IGN contributor, writer, producer Ryan McCaffrey.
So many problematic things. But first, before we really dive into things anymore, would like to give a quick brief synopsis so you, the wonderful people, have a general idea of what we're talking about and can kind of follow along. As always, we'll try and keep this general synopsis light and kind of be as spoiler light as we can throughout the podcast, but inevitably, some spoilers will come out here and there, as is the nature of this podcast. So, Brother, A Tale of Two Sons. The story begins with a boy named Nai standing at the tombstone of his dead mother, who drowned at sea while he was unable to save her. His older brother Naya calls him to help their ill father reach the village's doctor, who in turn tells them that the only way to save their father is by collecting water from the Tree of Life. So the brothers depart on a journey to reach the Tree of Life and to get what they need to save their father. Yeah, and that's the basic plot
Pretty much
outline,
it.
I
Yeah,
guess.
it's
pretty
there's
pretty
really not
straightforward.
much going on. Yeah.
It's honest.
That's one way to put
One
it.
thing we'll give it.
Very humble. One way to put
Very
it.
humble.
Yeah. I guess we just jumped straight into initial thoughts. Unless you got anything more on Joseph Fares. Maybe we save sort of his controversial
he deserves
figureness
his
for later.
own. He deserves his own probably episode, to be honest. But just to give everyone a bit more context, so Joseph Fares, his whole thing is that he makes a lot of co-op video games. And he comes from a film background. He's Swedish, is that right, Lucas?
He's actually Lebanese.
Lebanese, okay.
He was born in Beirut during the Lebanese Civil War, and moved to Sweden when he was very young. So his nationality, I suppose, is Swedish now. He's lived there for most of his life.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. So grew up in Sweden once he moved there after leaving Lebanon, or was it Lebanon?
Lebanese Civil War, yeah.
Lebanese, yeah. And yeah, so he's actually done another game that we played on Lab Podcast, another controversial game as well. A game called A Way Out, which is, I believe, under his studio, actually developed Hazelight. I'm pretty sure that's his own in-house studio. And
yeah, so I was a little confused. I should have done a little bit more on this one, but the developer of Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons is Starbreeze Studios. That's the developer, and it was published by 505 Games. And then Hazelight is his current studio. So I'm not sure if there was a sort of a shift in leadership there, or he left and started something else or something like that. But Starbreeze and Hazelight are his two studios that he's credited for.
yeah, and then as well, he works with EA now. And then he also recently, after A Way Out, he released again. And let's preface this: all these games he's done are generally well received. So Lucas and I, for what we have coming up here, are going to be a little bit in the minority. But A Way Out was well received for the most part. Brothers was very well received, and then the following game they released just this year, which was called It Takes Two, is also extremely well received from what I've heard as well. And that was also released under the Hazelight banner, I believe.
That's right.
EA Publishing, yeah. So he works with EA as the publishers now. So
Yep.
this guy, his whole repertoire is co-op games and trying to kind of break the mold and be as unique as he can with what he does. And Lucas and I we'll get into what we think about
Okay,
that, whether it works or not. And
check
we'll go from
out the A Way Out episode. It was kind of an early on episode. I think we did it almost a year ago. And I think we came from a perspective of like I was analyzing as much of the gameplay components as I could. Matt was thinking about it more in terms of if we had fun playing it, which admittedly it was a fun game for both of us to play co-op, and we've included kind of some of our silly little interactions and silly things that happened in that particular episode. But I think the consensus for A Way Out was that the gameplay just wasn't that polished and wasn't that sharp in terms of your actual control and your actual inputs.
So
Story, okay, sorry, go ahead.
well, yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I think the reason that we had fun playing A Way Out was because we played it together. It was a co-op game, right? Like, let's say, for example, you and I were we on the Switch port. This game actually can be co-op. Brothers can be co-op, and I think like let's say you and I were able to hang out in person and get this game through in like one day. I think we would maybe had a little bit more fun with it and been a little bit more forgiving to some of it, like how we were um, with A Way Out.
Hmm.
Because I mean, obviously, if we were playing it together, we're gonna have a little bit more fun. But I think the fact that this was a very janky like non-co-op game that probably should be co-op. Though it
Yeah.
played it individually, I think that might have kind of affect our opinions on it too. And I want to preface: I'm not. Some of you may be thinking now, like, oh, Matt and Lucas just didn't play the game the way it was intended to be played. No, this game was actually originally made only single player, and then you controlled each character
Right.
yourself. Co-op was actually something that was only recently added on to the Switch port, which came out, much after everything
2019,
else.
6 years
So
later after the original.
not with the originals at all. So very different in that regard. But
Yeah.
we can get into it a little bit more. Also, really quick, I just want to mention some of the awards this game got is just nutty.
I know.
um, I don't know, you might have glossed over it already, Lucas, but Brothers Tale of Two Sons, it won the award for Best Xbox Game at the 2013 VGX Award Show, formerly the Spike Video Game Awards. And that's not just like Best Xbox Arcade Game. It's not just in competition with like best, like indie game. That is the best Xbox game, beating out the likes of BioShock Infinite, Tomb Raider, and Grand Theft Auto 5. I haven't
That's
played Tomb Raider, but I have played Grand Theft Auto 5 and BioShock Infinite, and both are leagues ahead of this game in my
not like
opinion.
literally not in the same category
Yeah,
of caliber of game whatsoever at
so
all. Yeah,
that's where
and
the disconnect is with this game.
I mean, I got another one here. This game at the 2013 BAFTA Awards, which is BAFTA. I think we've referenced it a lot. I'm a big fan of BAFTA. They're kind of a more prestigious. I'd say that they're more artistically inclined. They're sort of like, if you can consider anything to be like the Oscars of video games right now, I would personally argue that it's BAFTA over a lot of these other ones. I think the other ones are, they're important. The Game Awards, the Spike TV ones have been around forever. IGN, of course, always has their top games of the year. Um, but they're a little bit more commercialized as BAFTA being a little bit more of a governing body. Best Game Innovation in 2013 went to Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, beating out Grand Theft Auto 5, Papers, Please, and The Stanley Parable. Uh, that's mind blowing to me. I don't understand. I don't want to spend too much of this.
All games we've done for the podcast, Stanley
Yeah,
Parable and Papers, Please. Yeah.
that's true. And I don't want to spend too much of the time here just talking about this game beating out other games. I really want to dive into sort of the details of why we do feel this way
Yeah.
about the game. I know me and Matt do feel the same way about this game. So buckle up, people. This is gonna be just like the 12 minutes episode we just had.
Yes. Yes.
So we're gonna dive in. Matt, initial thoughts. Let me hear it.
Yeah, so my first thoughts when I'm playing this game. So you open up the game, right? And I mean, I mentioned this in the synopsis, but like one of the opening scenes and opening sequences is literally you're playing the younger brother and you're grieving at your mother's gravestone, and you get to see a flashback of how your mother drowned and you weren't able to save her. And my God, this is like the least convincing drowning scene I've ever seen in my
Not a
life.
great,
I'm
well
gonna sound like
animated, well done flashback. Go
I
ahead.
think we're gonna sound like a little bit of a dick in this episode a lot too, because I think this game tries to be very deep and it just doesn't execute well on certain themes it's going for. Maybe kind of similar to maybe what was going on in 12
Wait,
minutes actually,
I was gonna say
and
A Way Out.
probably too.
Yeah.
But literally, like this kid, like he grabs his mom and then like just lets go. Like there's no like struggle to try and save her. So that was my first impression was God, this kid freaking sucks. And then, moreover, in this game too, I'm just so blown away because as you're playing this game, you get to do all this incredible athletic shit, like you're climbing things, you're jumping, you're swinging from ropes, things that would require an incredible amount of muscle strength, like very like gymnastics basically. But this kid can't just pull his mom out of the water. I don't know what's up with that. But that
Yep.
aside, the first impressions and more so the controls. So what's really unique about this game and kind of the gimmick, if you will, that the Joseph was going for, the director was, um, you control two characters, a younger brother and an older brother, and with one side of your controller, one analog stick and one trigger, you control the younger brother, and then on the opposite end with the other analog stick and the other trigger button, you control the older brother, and those are really the only playable buttons you have in the game. You have your
Right.
analogs to walk around, and then you have the triggers to interact.
And the triggers are just a catch-all interact button. There's no like,
Everything.
there's no jump button and grab button. It's just that's the jump grab button, so you just hold it the whole time.
Yes, it's all like literally. If you have to go up a ledge, you don't like. There's no press A to climb or anything. It's just you'll just walk up it too, which I can get into. That was actually an issue I had as well, which we can get into.
I have a
Later.
huge issue with that.
But the controls of the game just don't feel good. And I mean, immediately the first action you do is like a team between the boy, or excuse me,
Brothers.
the brothers, the younger and the older brother. The first action you do is basically wheeling your father, your sick father, up to the village doctor. And even then, immediately, I just noticed right away, okay, this doesn't feel good. This isn't controlling well. Like, when you pick up a game like that, where you're just controlling people, it should be, unless you're flying, unless you're playing a game where you're flying, like, airplanes on Southpaw or whatever, or inverted, and you're not, and you haven't done that before, like, obviously that might be a little jarring and not very intuitive. But a game where you're just controlling people in third person, that should be a relatively intuitive feeling. That's not something we should have to really reinvent the wheel on, and have to,
I
that's
agree.
not something that should be, I guess, that's not something that you should try and like get creative with in your game per se. And I granted, like if I was controlling one brother, yeah, it'd probably be fine. But the fact that you're controlling the two, and the fact that I don't know, it doesn't feel good. I mean, anyone that's played a game will understand. Like a game just feels good or it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it feels clunky. It doesn't feel responsive when you want it to go a certain way. I think the interact was like very inconsistent at times. Like I'd have to be angled at a certain way, or like facing it in just the right manner to like interact with a certain lever or something. And I was just kind of, granted, I'll also be fair, I was pretty sick while I was playing this game, so I might have been getting a little bit more irritated easier. But I was
Totally.
Lucas was healthy and he was getting irritated too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was very clearly like just not. It felt just not polished. Is the best way I would describe it.
Right. And just I mean, I echo pretty much everything you just said right now. Just some housekeeping stuff. I mean, I played this on Switch in single player as it
I
was
played Switch
played.
as well.
Okay, cool. Single player as it originally came out. So we did not play this game co-op. Like Matt said earlier, we played basically what was the original 2013 version that was released. And man, I was just not a fan of this one. I was really disappointed. This game is widely praised. It's won numerous awards, and I'm actually blown away at how little I liked it. I didn't like, we for those of you that have been listening to the show for a while, we have different categories here: game design, art style, sound design. I didn't like any of those for this game, pretty much at all. And I guess that's a spoiler for getting further into the pod episode. But yeah, my initial thoughts are, like you were saying, Matt. I mean, every single game, I pick it up and I say, "How do I move?" It's the number one thing with most games, right? And especially this game is categorized as an adventure game, right? That's actually it's where it's placed, right? And it's more just a walking simulator. There's nothing adventure-y about it. I mean, it's adventure-y in that you walk through some quote adventurous sort of set pieces, but they're all, and I'll get into this later on with the art style. They're all very stock. They're all very like, here's the snowy mountain, here's the troll cave,
Right. Yeah.
here's the like dream sequence, here's the spider
The
monster. It's
wolf
just
chase scene.
Yeah, it's all yeah, exactly. Here's the Dark Forest. It's all very like there it's extremely cliched and like just plays on like a fable style fantasy genre thing. And doesn't give any of itself any liberties. It doesn't do anything original in terms of like where it goes. It's a walking simulator game. I truly, it just is a walking simulator game where every single action takes both the older brother and the younger brother. So there's no changing, there's no alternate routes, there's no choices in what you do any of your inputs for. So if you go up to some ledge that you can't get up, you just walk the older brother up there and then you walk the younger brother up there, you push both buttons and now the younger brother gets thrown up there or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a very rudimentary way to think about here are two separate characters that you're controlling at the same time. It doesn't actually ever feel that way because there's nothing that separates it from being what would be just a one single entity in any regular walking simulator game, like a Journey, which we have done for this podcast as well. A game that has really great movement and incredible art style and looks amazing and is just I mean, if you want to know more, you can go ahead and check out our Journey episode as far as comparing walking simulator games. But like this game, the core of it is supposed to be two brothers that you're controlling at the same time, two separate entities are needed to accomplish certain tasks. But because the tasks that you're doing are so minimal, it doesn't even really end up mattering that there's two of them, in my opinion. It just felt like a long, gimmicky way to accomplish the same thing that you would accomplish in any regular game. The only time and I know you'll agree with me on this one, was at the very end after, and again, we're in spoiler territory, after the older brother does die, and then the younger brother has to do some tasks on his own, then it kind of like comes full circle with the control scheme, but only for like
Yeah.
5 seconds, literally. And it doesn't, it's not a big enough payoff to make up for 3 to 4 hours of just lame walking simulator gameplay.
Yeah, and I mean this kind of rolls into game design too, but something you mentioned as well was just how when you're not like interacting, like jumping, there's no jump button, you're just literally walking up these ledges, right? And in a way that makes the game it makes the game disgustingly linear
Yes.
because there's no creativity, like there's no thinking that has to be done on the side of the player because there's no, oh, what ledge can I jump up? You don't like explore different areas. You're just walking up to different ledges and seeing, oh, well, will my character go up this one? Oh, I guess they do. This must be the right way to go. And there could very easily, be another ledge, on the other side of the screen that also looks climbable, but it's not because that's just not where you're supposed to go.
Right.
And we kind of brought it up a little bit too, and I'm not sure where a good place to bring it up is. So I want to bring it up now. Ryan McCaffrey from IGN compared this game to basically calling it just as good as Journey. And
Mind
I'm
blowing.
not even exaggerating. Like, I think that's rude. I think that's genuinely rude and insulting to the team at Journey and the game that Journey is. I mean, for those of you that haven't played it, play that game. Go listen to our episode on it. That game is absolutely incredible. I consider that game almost like a spiritual, like meditative experience. It is so good and the best, if you want to call it a walking simulator, the best walking simulator game out there, in my opinion. Absolutely incredible. And it's kind of funny because even while I was playing this game, the whole time I was playing it, I was thinking to myself, this kind of feels like it's trying to be like Journey, but it's just really bad and not even close to it.
Yeah.
And to see a fucking IGN pundit come out with that and try and,
Yeah.
try and compare it to Journey is just actually, it makes me upset.
Yeah, I have the article here. It's a 2012 article by Ryan McCaffrey at IGN, and the headline is Starbreeze's Brothers the Next Journey? And the byline is, for once, movies and games collide in a good way. And McCaffrey goes on to talk about the world building in the game and the interactions that you have with the NPCs in the game, which I think are extremely surface level and really not that great. Which is something that a lot of
I was reading it and like you didn't even play the game.
Yeah,
like,
a lot
have
of
you heard it like there's so many other games that like bring movies to like fucking Heavy Rain was out before this thing. I think that came out in
Dead Space was out before this.
there's so many
Literally,
other,
like
cinematic
every Call of
games.
Duty was out before this. Those are like the best.
Those are literally like playing an action video game.
Yeah, and this is like I don't know what movie this game is trying to be. If this game was trying to be a movie, it's just like a lame straight to Netflix fantasy like TV show. It's
Yeah.
nothing. There's nothing unique or brave or challenging about the genre that it's in, about the setting. I mean, at the very end, the older brother dies. That's the big thing that's supposed to be like very heartbreaking, but it's not truly a sad thing that happens because it's sad by nature of an older brother dying is sad to a younger brother, right? And I don't know, Matt, you're a younger brother to an older sister. I have two older brothers. So if this game is going to emotionally hit for anybody, I believe that it should hit for somebody like me. I think. And Joseph Faras is also a brother. In fact, his brother Faras is an actor that's been in pretty much all of his movies and was the
Side
voice.
note, I saw that. I was like, is that really his name? Like,
Yeah, it is. And well, at the very least, his stage name.
sure.
And Faras also played Leo in A Way Out, voiced him. So
Did
it's
he?
like Joseph. I think really if you wanted to call Joseph Faras a auteur video game developer, he's thinking in terms. He has a very close relationship with his brother, and he's trying to establish that and create that through the games that he makes. I respect that. I get that. But to me, this game, coming from especially a film background, it's like if you're trying to create sadness within the audience, then you have to earn that. You can't just say, "Hey, dead brother, look how sad that is." Like it actually feels like the older brother deserved that death because he actually like fell
He
for a
got them in that
trap.
mess in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. So even
Yeah.
within the context of the story, you don't even feel that bad for the older brother. You almost feel like this idiot. Why did he?
Yeah, and
He
for full
dies
context, the
because.
way he
Go ahead.
dies is they get basically the encounter this girl that's being like sacrificed or like in a ritual or something, and then you save her, and then she leads you to like a cave and is like very blatantly flirting with the old seeing him and stuff. And then she tries to lead him in the cave, and then the younger brother is like, "Bro, no, like, are you kidding me?" And then of course the older brother is like, "Yeah, we're going in
Yeah,
there." And the second they get in there, she transforms into a giant spider, tries to kill them, and they defeat her. But in the process, the
the older
brother
brother
dies. The
gets a
older
mortal
brother
wound.
gets stabbed and gets a wound. But it's not even a epic or meaningful death or wound that he sustains in that moment. It's not like he's saving anyone per se. It's just like an afterthought, right? It's not like he pushes Naid out of the or whatever the younger brother's name is
Naive,
out of the
yeah.
way. It's just like this. The spider leaves one last punch and happens to be on the older brother,
Yeah.
and it's just and two up to that point, depending on how fast you play this game, you've probably been playing for 2.5, 3, 2 hours, something like that. And that's not enough time to build any kind of connection with a character to make you feel bad when they die, other than the fact that it's like a brother. And beyond that, too, I mean, let's pretend there was I mean, it is possible to build, maybe a good connection with a character up to that point. But with like the dialogue that they have in the game, it's just not happening because the only dialogue is gibberish. It just sounds like Sims talking, right?
Yeah.
So there's no actual character development. The only character development is maybe a little bit at the end, when the younger brother finally swims. But other than that, it's a very flat game the whole way. There's no real beats, like emotional beats, other than the mom died in the beginning, now the brother's dead. Those are your two beats right there,
Right.
emotional beats.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it's a very flat game.
Exactly. And just to round out on game design, I'm gonna just kind of throw one more thing out there. I understand the game is not meant to be a technical, challenging game. Um, it's not a difficult game at all, and it's not really trying to be challenging whatsoever. And I get that, but if you're not offering challenge, problem solving, or anything for the player to kind of chew on, in terms of game design, then what are you trying to push? What point are you trying to make with your game design? Maybe you're trying to push an idea. Maybe you're making the game simple in order to focus on story or world building. We see that in video games all the time. It's like this game isn't difficult, it's just a great story. It's like, okay, cool. Like, then give me a great story, right? This game is not difficult, but it has a really great message about difficulty or anxiety or something like that. And to me, this game doesn't do any of that. It's just simple because it's trying to be deep. but it doesn't
It fails to
actually.
be deep.
It fails to be deep, yeah. And maybe it's me and Matt being cynical mid 20-year-olds, not feeling very deep about this game. Maybe if we had like maybe if we were really young or we were very impressionable teenagers, this would be a very deep game for us. Maybe if we had a brother that or a sibling that did end up passing away, maybe that's a very hard thing to deal with, and that's very touching and it's tough. Um, but in the same vein, I don't think it's a very well earned within the context of the game. It's like we don't have to have gone through something as traumatizing as the characters go through to identify with them. If you're making a story, you can make us identify with your characters no matter what their situation is.
Hmm.
We see that in fantasy and epics all the time. And I don't know. It just really bothers me that you could really if you're gonna make your game simple. I mean, Journey's simple. There's nothing technically challenging about Journey. I know we keep going back to it, but there's nothing very challenging about it. But it has a very clear message that can be open to impression. Or not, right? I mean, it could be taken very literally, or it could be
Yeah.
like kind of taken into in terms of a lot of different things. But I mean, at the very least, it's not demanding so much, and it gives you something to like look at, and it gives you something to think about. This game didn't do any of that for me.
Yeah, and I don't understand why it got good reviews. Honestly, at the end of the day, too. I mean, kind of you glanced over it a little bit here just now, and to kind of dig a little bit deeper, when I think when Lucas and I look at games and when we try and evaluate I think any medium that Lucas and I choose to look at, whether we're talking about with each other, we're talking about like a movie, a book, a video game, you got to ask yourself how good is it at doing what it's trying to do, right? Um, and to be fair, like we have
Exactly.
kind of criticized some of like the controls and stuff, and maybe some like the puzzles not being anything or the game being too linear. And to be fair, maybe the game's not trying to like be good at those things. But what I think very clearly, I think what the game is trying to be good at is having this emotional story that you get invested in. That is this beautiful scenic journey. And I'm sorry, but I just objectively, it's not that.
Yeah,
And when I see these outlets giving it eight, having it 90 out of 100, it just blows me away. And
yeah.
even the moments where like there's moments too where the game encourages you to stop and sit and just view the scenery, right? There's a lot of video games that will do that. Maybe I mean I think Journey's like that. They have a few moments where you kind of just like pause and
Well,
view what's around you and
well,
see
I
the
know
view.
that.
But
I think some games have started to do that more because I know that like Red Dead has viewpoints, and I think Ghost of
Red Dead,
Tsushima does too.
like any
Um,
Assassin's
Br-
Creed game has viewpoints that
Breath of the
usually look
Wild,
like
Breath of the Wild
Breath of
has
the Wild is
towers
a
and
great
stuff.
example. But in this game, I mean, the art's not good. I mean, the graphics aren't good. I mean, I'm not saying like, and I get that the game was released in what 2013, so obviously it's going to be a little bit aged in that regard. But I mean, shit, Journey came out in
12.
2012, and it looked incredibly much better than Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. And I mean, shit, Red Dead probably came out around the same time too.
All
And
the Assassin's Creeds that had come out around that time. I mean, you might have had two or three before that, which at least had. I mean, they're using a completely different engine and had a way bigger budget. But I mean, I guess Journey would be the best comparative thing because it was also an indie game. But it's like if you can't achieve the realism and the scale of something like an
like, why
Assassin's
would you
Creed,
try
because you're
and flex that? Like, why
yeah,
would you try and flex a shitty viewpoint?
exactly. Go, pull some tricks with your art style. And I guess we're getting inadvertently into art style here, but if you're an indie game and you don't have a large budget, you can't go for the scale and the realism of something like a Red Dead or an Assassin's Creed world. At the very least, you can develop an art style that looks different, that is like brave enough, challenging enough, different enough to where somebody views it goes, "Oh, that looks different," instead of this looks like a discount version of the other thing.
Right.
And I mean, it just ends up looking to me like everything looks stock. I mean, I keep going back to that. It's just like this looks like it was a bunch of assets that were gathered from like workshops, and like I mean, it runs on the Unreal Engine, so it's like it just seems like it's just downloadable like assets from someplace, and it's just kind of put together, and it just doesn't feel very unique
Yeah, and like we're
whatsoever.
being a little bit harsh maybe, but I mean again, just to kind of dig into it more. I mean, think about other games that have come out, post 2010 or 2012 that look good, right? And that aren't trying to like look and phenomenal. A perfect example of that would be a game like Hyper Light Drifter, very like beautiful pixel art, 16-bit whatever game, right? And I mean, I could think, I'm sure I could come up with a million.
Well,
Papers, Please,
I
even,
was gonna
right?
say
Like
Papers, Please.
Obra
Yeah,
Dinn.
Obra Dinn. Yeah, it's like a game
I
does
love that
not.
game.
We've talked about this on this podcast quite a bit. It's like one of our recurring themes is a game doesn't have to like a game can look like anything. A game like if you play a game like Obra Dinn, which everybody go check out our very first episode, which is on the Return of the Obra Dinn. It has no color. Like it's a black and white, like kind of low poly, murder mystery game. It's like that's what I want to play. I want to play something that like looks super different and challenges me and like just it doesn't have to have full color. It could be black and white. It could be low poly. It could be weird looking. It could be full like 16-bit pixel style, like Papers, Please or Hyper Light Drifter. It could be like hand paint. I mean, if you have the resources, right? Like Nintendo, it could look like Breath of the Wild, like kind of
Yeah.
stripped down, not to the scale of like as many objects on screen, like a Red Dead or an Assassin's Creed, not as dense as like a Cyberpunk, but leans into what it's trying to do, which is wide landscapes, big fields, right? And like, I mean, a game could look like anything, especially nowadays, with the resources that are available, and just to take an engine and make it look like to just do nothing, it just bothers me a little bit.
Yeah.
Getting real hot in here.
Great.
Yeah, getting real hot in here. I'll continue along into art style, reviewing some of my notes here, but the character design, it's just really boring. It's just like you take one look at that poster, and for those of you listening, just Google Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, and you will see the two main characters, and they look like nothing to me. They don't, of course, they don't get. We've talked about it. They don't develop at all throughout the story. They don't really change, or anything. They just look like an older brother and a younger brother, and they kind of just look a little boring. Pretty uninspired in terms of like kind of the landscape and where you go. I know I made that I said that earlier, but it's like it's like somebody got a fantasy setting list of items and just checked all the boxes off on those items. It's like, okay, trolls.
Fantasy for dummies.
Yeah, it's like trolls. Okay, check. Snowy mountains. Okay, check. Okay, they're gonna be in a boat at one point. All right, cool. Oh yeah, monsters in the water. Okay, check. Oh, cult people gonna sacrifice a woman. Okay, yeah, check. How about a mine in a big cavernous mine with trolls inside of a mountain? All right, check. And like, it just checks off all those boxes and then does nothing creative with those boxes, right? It's just you go inside that cavernous mine. There's not even any lighting effects in there. I know I told you that earlier, Matt. It's just like you'd think that if you were in a dark cavernous place in a video game, there would be some sort of dramatic lighting. Maybe everything's lit by flames. Maybe sunlight is peeking in through cracks in the side, or maybe it's reflecting off the water that's streaming through the bottom of the mine. Anything. No. In this game, it's just a flat looking fully lit thing, and you just walk through it. That's what the mine looks like. It doesn't distinguish itself at all. It doesn't feel different from any of the other areas. I can't even call out like specific music that changed or made an impact on me during that specific time.
Yeah, and then beyond that too, I mean, just the character designs are bad. The trolls are very like just look very boring. The Spider Woman is very boring.
Yeah.
The only part that was like kind of interesting and cool was at the end, or towards the end of the game, you encounter like a giant battlefield that had literally giants fighting. That part was kind of cool. Just seeing them, it was like they were set well. I think I talk a lot about set pieces. Like if I kind of try and think of it like the set design of like a play or something, and I thought it was set up well. That's like one of my only bright parts of the game is I thought it was designed well. But other than that, like yeah, everything was just boring, stock. Lighting was boring and bland. Yeah, just not good. Not good.
All right, we're man, I feel bad. I think we're like really we're really yeah, that's true. I mean, we're really going in here. It's just I guess we're going as much in as we did with 12 minutes. Yeah, I guess lesson to any game developers out there that are listening to this way down the line, because we're if we ever get there, make your game nice to look at the very least, and at least nail that sound design, and
I mean,
maybe
for
we'll
God's
overlook
sake,
it.
at least this game didn't go into incest. Like, given that.
God, that would have been weird. That'd have been really weird
Yeah.
with this one. But yeah, I mean, a game doesn't even necessarily need like a complex story. Video games as a medium are in this really unique zone, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately since we've been playing so many of them. Is you don't and we've played older games too. We've gone all the way back to Super Nintendo era and played Super Nintendo Chrono Trigger. Your game just needs to sell what it's selling well. It really doesn't need to like build the greatest looking or realistic looking thing, right? Like right now, one of the games we're playing and we'll be announcing it in a couple weeks is a GameCube game, and I just finished playing it. It's going to be one of our games in October, and this game, like its backgrounds are flat and drawn, and it does these cheats that obviously GameCube games had to do, where like the walls are sort of have objects on them, but they're flat and they're painted and they're low poly and all that. And that's fine, right? Like all I need to know is that like the game developer put some effort into at least building that set out. It didn't need to be a million
Yeah.
polys or anything. I mean, I don't go to a play and watch a theater play and go, "Oh, I could see the curtain." Like they didn't even obstruct. It's like your audience will suspend the disbelief. So it's not that you necessarily need an art style that's going to completely take it to the next level or imbue all this realism in it. It just needs to sell it well. That's my thing that I've learned. I don't know if you agree, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, again, and not every game has to be like freaking Horizon Zero Dawn level of graphics, right? Or anything like that, or incredible realism. It just has to do what it's doing well. And when your game looks like it was all taken from stock photos, it's not doing. It's supposed to, it's not selling. I want to move into sound design because I don't know about you, Lucas. I was thinking back on my notes. I was writing up my notes earlier, and I was thinking back, and I have literally zero memory of the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Do you have more positive things to say, or
No, I don't have anything
okay?
on the soundtrack. Sound design, nothing really there either, to be honest.
The,
Uh,
the it was frustrating
wow.
because the dialogue. I understand that it's supposed to be like a random kind of indiscriminate language. That it's not actually supposed to be like. There's not supposed to be. The intention is that there's not supposed to be an actual dialogue for us to listen to other than recognizing the names of the brothers. But it's such a garbled mess that whenever they try and talk to each other or whenever they try and interact with another character, it's genuinely distracting. And it just is like, why do you sound like that? They sound like characters out of The Sims, except worse.
Hmm.
And I played a lot of Sims growing up, and it just sounds like incredibly worse than that. It was
Yeah,
just very bad, very bad.
exactly. And it feels, I don't know, to me it just feels a little out of place. Like it just feels like you didn't want to write dialogue and you didn't want to record voice lines, so you just kind of do broad gestures with characters and there's no subtlety, there's no anything. And again, it would be different if like this was a game that man, I mean I keep going back to I mean I've played and loved games that have no dialogue and do a lot of storytelling
I mean, let's
with
think about
gestures.
a game we mentioned earlier, right? Papers, Please, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I said we did that for the podcast we have, and that was our proof of concept. We'll do it eventually for the podcast properly. Papers, Please is a game where they don't actually have a
There's no voiceover.
there's no proper voiceover. There's no proper dialogue. Whenever there's any like character speaking or dialogue exchange between your character and another, it's just kind of like a grumbled, distorted. Um, I don't know how to
It sounds like
describe
a
it, but
warped like voice
like a
disguising.
warped, distorted voice that's been distorted so much that you can't actually make out what it originally was.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it. But it sounds cool, and it actually like it works. Whereas in this game, whatever the garbled mess they're saying is just like it's very
It's just lazy.
just it's lazy, it's distracting. It sounds like that Joseph and a couple people just went to the mics and just like spat nonsense.
Yeah,
and
we'll
no,
throw
and
some of it
everything.
in,
Yeah.
just for good measure, so the audience can understand. But yeah, yeah, not much for sound design there. I know one of the things is like, I mean, the sound at least works. Like, at least it doesn't like, at least it's like level,
It doesn't
and
break. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't break or it's not off or anything like that. So at the very least, minimally, it's passable. But yeah, nothing really big there. All right, the NPC award. What do you got for this one?
Oof. Um, what did I have? I have the mom.
Okay.
Um, the mom that dies in the beginning, and my reasoning was my exact notes here are the mom. She didn't deserve any of this.
That's great. That's great. I
That's all I got.
okay.
The
I
mom had
got.
a crappy son that couldn't save her.
That's right. I got. I'm gonna go ahead and give this to the dad. Actually, I'm giving it to him for putting up with all your bullshit. He lost his wife because
Your
of the little
fault.
brother. Yeah, he lost the wife because of the little brother. Couldn't do anything on that boat. Then he wakes up from a coma to find out that his eldest son is dead. Uh, he's got a lot to put up with. I mean, he's
He's
just
got a
gonna,
lot of baggage,
yeah. It's just he's got a lot of baggage there, and
and you know that home is awful for the little brother now too.
yeah, it's like that's the eldest son, man. The eldest son
Yeah,
just died. That's a in that setting, according to the rules of the genre and everything. It's like that's a big deal.
it's a very big deal. Yeah. All right.
Companion piece
Companion
pick.
piece.
All right, Matt, you go first on this one.
So unfortunately, I can't use Billie Eilish twice in a week or twice in a row on games. So for this one, I'm going with Lord of the Rings for an actual good companion journey of two friends slash kind of brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty straightforward on that one. That's all I got. I haven't even watched Lord of the Rings in ages. I just know I liked it with Frodo and all those and Sam and
Those guys,
those
Gimli,
guys.
Aragorn. Yeah.
And specifically, I'm trying to focus in on the Frodo Sam, brotherhood there. But yeah, I mean, I just remember I liked them, and I was thinking, oh, those guys are kind of like brothers. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, man. I don't have a companion piece pick.
Really,
I've opted out.
that's
I'm
hot. Opted out.
I'm officially opting
He's
out of a
out.
companion piece pick. I like. I mean, you say Lord of the Rings. That's the first thing that comes to mind, just because it's like two
High
brother-like
fantasy.
characters, fantasy, walking from point A to point B with a mission, right? But and also at the end of this game, at the end of Brothers, they do fly away on a bird and get out and just fly all the way back home. So there is that ending. It's very similar, but I
Yeah,
don't think this is worthy enough for just watch Lord of the Rings, everybody. It's amazing. Like you don't need to companion piece pick it with anything, especially this game. It's going to be great on its own. This game, I literally can't think of anything that this didn't evoke anything in my head to bring any other pieces of media, whether it's film or music or movies or anything. It didn't bring anything to mind.
brutal.
Yeah,
I love
I do
that.
have a favorite moment though.
Really,
We'll go with
because
that.
I
Yeah.
opted out of that.
Okay, all right, perfect. My favorite moment is the moment when you're traversing like the bridge castle area when the two brothers are tied together.
Oh, that
Um,
was kind of fun. That was
that was
actually kind of fun.
cool, and I'll give my reasoning as to why. That was a part with some genuine game design to me. You had to learn how to do inputs. You had the risk of actually dying and losing, and you got better at it and smoother as you learned how to do it through that level. So if you consider that to be a level, it's like, hey, we're going to introduce this mechanic to the level. You have to learn how to utilize this mechanic in order to traverse this area. And as you traverse that area, you get better at the mechanic all the way to the end point where if you make any one mistake, you'll just die and you'll have to kind of start all over. And I did die a couple times and I was like, okay, awesome. I like this. This is a good thing. I died because I could not get it together. Time to get it together, Lucas. And I learned how to do it and you finish it up. That's level design. That's game design right there. Think back to like any classic Mario game or any like old Donkey Kong game or Donkey Kong Country game for Super Nintendo. It's like, here's a level, here's a quirky thing about this level. Uh, we're gonna introduce it to you in a safe environment first. Then it's gonna get a little bit harder. then it's going to get a little bit harder, then you're going to have a climax to that mechanic, and then you're going to beat the level. That's what it felt like during that moment, and that's why it's a favorite moment. I wish every zone was like that. Would have been really cool, but unfortunately, it just wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, incredible grip strength by those boys supporting each other on the rope. I was very blown away by that.
Yeah, that grip strength would have been really great when
Really
the
great
mom
when
was
Mom
drowning.
was drowning. Yeah.
Right.
Christ.
All right, nitpicks. I think we can
Nitpicks.
skip nitpicks, right?
Yeah, one of those days where you can skip nitpicks for sure.
All right.
Um,
Okay. Can I talk about Joseph Ferras now?
Yeah.
All right, so we have a category here that we do at the end of every episode, and its category is officially "Would you play other games from this developer?" We have played other games from this developer. We've played A Way Out, and if you want, again, you could check out our Way Out episode, and we definitely talked. We talked a lot about that game, and kind of I have very similar feelings about this game as I did about A Way Out. But I will say that A Way Out was far, far better than Brothers here, especially playing it as a co-op experience with Matt for the podcast. It actually was fun in hindsight in a lot of different ways. I will go on record saying that. But I just don't think that this game really quite gets there. And I wish I did more research on Joseph Ferras with A Way Out, but I did quite a bit of research on him for this game here, and he's got quite an interesting story. He was born in Beirut during the Lebanese Civil War, and him and his family escaped to Sweden when he was very young. And he started off as a filmmaker and made his first feature, which was a Swedish comedy, in the year 2000. And he's been making video games since 2013. So from 2000 to 2010, he was making Swedish feature films, and just started off on video games as Brothers here was his first video game. And Joseph Ferras is really known as a very cocky and kind of somewhat controversial figure in the space. Best known for a 2017 Game Awards stunt he did pull. It's his famous "fuck the Oscars" speech. You can look it up on YouTube. Basically, he was saying he was a passionate, crazy guy, and the Game Awards are where the truly passionate and crazy people are, and the Oscars are not where it's at. And I think he's coming from a filmmaker standpoint, saying something like that. The audience cheered, people loved it. It's kind of become an internet meme. A lot of people talk about it. And he certainly has his fandom for saying something like that, especially during a time when the Oscars have been more than ever been kind of, at least in that time period, on fire for a lot of Oscars controversy. If you remember, Oscars So White, and sort of Boys Club, things like that with the Oscars going on then. And it's going to sound like I'm pulling sound bites here because he did say quite a bit of things during the Oscar speech that I don't quite agree with. And you could also watch an IGN Unfiltered interview that he had, where he talks about that. I certainly recommend giving that a listen. It's about an hour-long interview, but he talks about that speech at the very beginning. And Joseph Ferras, I'll put it this way. He outright said that if he came to Hollywood within an 8 to 9 month period, he would be the director that everybody would want to work with. Everybody. And I just don't agree with that. I mean, I just flat out objectively don't think that would happen. He is very, very firm in what he believes within himself. He believes he's that guy. He's great. Everything he makes is amazing. He even flat out said, if you didn't like A Way Out, it's because you didn't get it, because it is, quote, objectively a great game. It is just a great game, and you can't play that game and understand it and not think it's great. Disagree with that as well, because you can go listen to our episode on that. Man, I'm really, really going in here, Matt. I apologize.
That's good. I mean, I'm at a weird spot because I do think personalities like his are important to help advance other people in this space. And at the end of the day, when you do get people like him, people that are really shooting for the stars and really believe their own hype, you will get some great people. Like that's how you'll get, the Quentin Tarantino's of the world, right? The people that really do sincerely believe in their own hype that much. But at the end of the day, bravado only goes so far. And Lucas, you can kind of get into this as well, I'm sure. Where I think it's kind of a shame is that this guy is kind of trying to make himself out to be like the quirky face of gaming in that regard, and like kind of trying to be like, oh, I'm the auteur of gaming, right? Like I'm the Quentin Tarantino of gaming, where I don't really think he deserves that title, and I feel like he really does believe in his own hype, and credit to him for that regard. To an extent, fake it till you make it, and I do. Confidence is good, but I don't like the idea of someone like that makes the games he's made being like the face of things per se. Because I don't know. I mean, maybe I'd rather have someone like Suda51 be the face.
Yeah,
Someone like
that
that.
that's more worthy of an auteur status for
Yeah.
sure. And I agree with what you said. I say this as somebody who loves Tarantino. I love people like Kanye West, even people that I believe have made genuinely great work, and also happen to be very cocky and outspoken. Um, but I don't think that Joseph Faras has made a good game that I've played. I mean, I guess we could play It Takes Two later down the line for the pod, so I can kind of round out on my critique here. But I just don't think that these games are. I think they're halfway between movies and games, but not fully either one. I mean, we've just gone through and broken down the whole thing here, so I don't need to do it. But I'm I'm just a simple game critic with a podcast, and I guess gotta say I'm not a fan of the mentality that he brings to the table. And I'm a film guy, and I'm not a huge fan of the Oscars. But I want to say that to outright say fuck the Oscars is crazy. It's like doesn't it's not productive. It's not creating any discourse. It's not creating any sort of conversation. I mean, the people at the Oscars aren't coming out and saying like, "Oh, fuck the Game Awards," or like "fuck BAFTA," for giving out for video games suck. They're not saying things like that. I mean, video games are an artistic medium just like anything else. They do things well. They do things not so well. And that you'll
Yeah.
find that with, video games can't tell as good of a story mostly as a book could, right? And like film and music and theater and plays, everything has its own place as far as mediums go. And to reject the governing body for the quality of a medium, it just is outrageous. And I think that Joseph Faras, uh, I mean, it's problematic, right? Because it shuts down a lot of people that I mean, video games are in a space where they're not as respected as a medium as like film, right? I mean, historically. And with stunts like the fuck the Oscars speech, it kind of hurts us as a community, I'd say. And it makes people not really want to respect video games that much because
Yeah.
how could you if you're trying to get people who love a medium like film to play more video games, to understand more video games, to want to play video games, and they hear a fuck the Oscar speech, what is going to make them want to play your game? What is going to make them want to play the game? It's just like it's a very combative stance to really take,
It's
and
us
I'm not a
versus
fan.
them. That's the mentality,
Exactly.
which is not a healthy mentality.
I'm off my soapbox now. That's all I'm gonna say here.
I I could tell this guy really rattled the artistic side of you.
Well, it's just I'm a fan of discourse, right? Like
Yeah.
I always say too, it's like if anybody here disagrees with my video game opinions, join our Discord and let's talk about it too. Or like even send me a DM. Like this podcast format is made so that me and you talk about video games. And even when we disagree, hey, like it's fine, we can talk about our disagreement, but I'm totally against combative discourse when it comes to things. Like coming at somebody or coming at even a group of people with an opinion as aggressive as like fuck the Oscars, this is where it's at kind of thing is not right. It doesn't create anything productive. And that's where I stand. I'll stand by that I think for a
Yeah.
while.
I think what the hell? I'm blanking on his name again. What's it? I
With
think
Joseph Farad.
Joseph. I think Joseph. What I take from him is that he made a few shitty films in Sweden that didn't catch on, and then he took his talents to make mediocre video games instead. And now he thinks he's the shit in video games. And I think this is his way of getting back at being probably not a great director. Now, to be
I
fair,
know.
Lucas and I are in the minority again on this. This game overwhelmingly got pretty good reviews, actually. Let's take a look at a few. IGN gave it a 8.2 out of 10. Joystick gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Everywhere on Metacritic, it got, you know,
At
90
least
on the
80.
PC,
Yeah.
80 everywhere except the Switch, which was a 79 and whatever, round up. Um, Overwhelmingly positive. So obviously Lucas and I are the minority, and we can recognize that. Maybe this game just really isn't a Lucas and Matt game at the end of the day, and maybe it's a you game. Maybe you play it and you love it. And if you do, tell us why. Shoot us an email. Thanks for playing pod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Um, and we can acknowledge that Lucas and I, while rating is final, make no mistake on that. We can acknowledge that our opinions might be unique to us at times as well. So we're not trying to be combative like Joseph is with our opinions. I guess is
Agreed.
the point I'm trying to make. But I would like to mention, because the main question in this section is, would you play the games from this developer? And Lucas, you're gonna hate me, but while we were playing this, actually, I added to the game, or while we were recording this, I added to the games list. It Takes Two. We got
All right.
We got it.
I guess we got it. Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
this is it. That one's gotten great reviews, and who knows? Maybe this is the one that finally.
If that one
makes
is
us,
also bad,
Joseph believers.
if that one's also bad, I will officially make the claim that we're living in some sort of pocket universe or something, or like me and you are just like downloading the wrong game, something insane. Because if he's 0 for 3 in my head, I'm just confused at that point.
I'm almost afraid that we're gonna have to have like a spiritual retreat before we play that, just to make sure you go into it with a clean mind.
I had a clean mind on this one though,
don't know.
legit. I had nothing going on. I played it. I played it on the
Either
Switch.
way.
I sat down. I was on my couch. I wasn't hungry. I wasn't sick. I just played the game.
Well, either way, the answer for both of us, would you play their games, is yes, because I'm going to make Lucas play It Takes Two. Final conclusive thoughts. Does this earn my Segoy of approval? No, for all the reasons stated above. Don't need to be a dead horse with a stick. Lucas, how about you?
Yep, same. Does not earn my seal of approval here. Not for all the reasons that were stated above.
Yeah. All right, so everyone, now we have reached the fun point of the podcast where Lucas and I each give our ratings out of 10. 10 plus 10 equals 20. This rating usurps all others, usurps IGN, usurps Metacritic, usurps any other gaming outlet. Usurps, whatever.
Usurps.
Usurps. Is it not usurps?
Usurps.
No. Have you not listened to watch Game of Thrones? The usurper, Robert Baratheon.
The usurper. Yeah, it's usurper. I just googled it. It's okay.
Usurper Eren Yeager. Oh, I can't wait for that to come back. All right, so Lucas and I gave our ratings out of 10. We add them up to get to 20. We'll see where we land at. All right, Lucas. When I say go, all right, can you work with me on that?
Yep.
All right. When I say go, we'll each give our rating out of 10. 3, 2, 1, go.
4. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Both gave it a 4. That's kind of my bottom. I feel like I haven't given anything below 4.
No, you gave a way out a 3. No, not a way out. You gave
12 minutes a 4.
12 minutes a 3.
I gave 12 minutes a 4.
No, you gave it a 3.
Did I really?
I'm pretty positive you gave it a 3.
No,
I'll have to go back and double check.
I think I gave it a 4 because I'm almost positive I gave it a 4.
No, I think you gave it a 3 because I think you said 3 means the game is literally broken.
No, because I said no. It's 4 because if it got lower than a 4, it means that it's unplayable. It's not. It's buggy and it doesn't work.
Okay.
Yeah. So 4 is the minimum on my scale, a minimum for a game that's at least working.
All right.
Yeah.
So 4 plus 4, that is 8. That puts us in the Sakura zone.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, Sakura zone. That puts us officially in the Sakura zone. Not a great zone to be in, as we all know. Maybe if we're talking late Shippuden Sakura, it could be better, but still not great.
Still not great.
We're talking the Sakura that made fun of Sasuke and Naruto for being orphans. That is the Sakura we're talking about here.
Pretty bad.
All right, everyone. I think that is all the time we got today, though. As always, everyone, I didn't do our little self-service plug in the beginning, self-promo, but we do have a Discord. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great place to come chat with Lucas and I and meet the community. We have a lot of great people in there that love to just hang out, chat about video games, chat about that latest episode, hash out thoughts. It's a good time. You can find the link to that Discord on our website, thanksforplaying.live. As well, you can also find the link to that Discord on our social media handles on Twitter and Instagram, which are both at TFP Podcasts. That's TFP Podcasts with an S at the end. We're also on TikTok as well at that same handle. And of course, maybe you want to shoot us an email with a discussion or concern, perhaps, or maybe some hate mail. I'll take hate mail. You can shoot us email at thanksforplayingpod@gmail.com. And as always, if you're listening on Spotify, remember to follow the podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, remember to leave a review, and subscribe to the podcast there as well. And hey, if you leave a review, tell us what Girl Scout cookie we would be.
Ooh, I like that
think
one.
I'm a Thin Mint. I think Lucas is a what's the coconut one?
Oh, I hate coconut. Those are Samoas, right?
Lucas is a Samoa.
I really am not. I'd be a Thin Mint if anything. Just like
No.
keep me in the freezer and just like
Well, I'm the Iceman.
chocolate.
So
Oh, you are the Iceman. That's right. Okay, yeah, maybe you're the Thin Mint then. Okay.
All right, everyone. Lucas, you can find me online. Twitter, Good Idea Matthew. Lately, you can find me tweeting about and retweeting and complaining about the state of the U.S. men's national soccer team. As of this day, we have tied Canada and tied El Salvador. We have 2 points in qualifying, and it is not looking promising that we'll make it to the 2022 World Cup. At that point, I will commit seppuku. Seppuku?
Seppuku. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. If you want to find me online, you can find me on our Discord. You can find the Discord most easily if you go to thanksforplaying.live, which is our website.
Yes.
Find an easy link to the Discord there. I'm one of 2 people in the highest role in that Discord. You'll find me, Lucas. Shoot me a DM if you'd like. Hate mail, just like Matt says. I'll take some hate mail. No problem. And you can also follow me on Instagram at GoodIdeaLucas.
Love it. All right, everyone. This has been Thanks for Playing. Catch you next time. Skip it about.